right, fam, I am back from Summer Games Fest. I am here rocking and rolling in the studio, recovering and trying to get some sleep because we were busy. We were very, very busy. I have not in my life been that consistently busy where like you wake up first thing in the morning, walk a couple of miles to the venue, and then literally from like 8 a.m. until 10 p.m., I have appointments nonstop with maybe like 2 or 3 minutes to run to the next appointment and like a 15-minute lunch break. It was like awesome and really cool, but I'm tired. And so I'm catching up now. We're filming all of this stuff. And today I want to talk about Onimusha, Way of the Sword. Now, Onimusha is interesting because this, of course, received a public demo at the Sony State of Play, which is awesome. And that public demo has been received with a lot of really positive feedback. People really seem to enjoy it, but there are some points of critique and areas where people think that they could improve it. Notably, enemy aggression, people feeling like the game is at times way too easy. There were comments about graphical problems or even at times downgrades where it felt like the game didn't look particularly good compared to some of the trailers and things like that. Now, at this point, like, I want to talk about that public demo, and I want to talk about a behind closed doors theater presentation that I saw showing gameplay that's not been made public, and a behind closed doors preview demo that I played, which I can show you footage of now because the embargo has lifted. And I want to talk about all of it because I do think that Onimusha Way of the Sword looks awesome, and I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I do think, though, that there are some areas that need balance, that need improvement, some tweaking. It's close, but I think that there's still some areas where I was like, I'm not sure if I love that. So I'm going to tell you all about that here. As always, I'm going to stress, if you played the demo, if you've seen the trailers and stuff, put your feedback and comments of what you think of all of that down below. Like, put those comments. You would be shocked at some of the people that casually mentioned this past weekend, like that they watch the live channel, that they watch these clips, they read the comments, like people that actually make these games and make this whole industry possible. You'd be amazed. So put that feedback down below. You never know who's reading. I'll just say that. I'll keep it vague. Now, having said all of that, to go through the public demo that has gone up, there's been a number of people that have played it. It's something that obviously has generated a lot of discourse. There was, I mean, even like Moist Critical played it and has his clip of it. This is, of course, the boss fight against Sasaki, which I believe debuted in the initial announcement of the game and just seems, I mean, it's just a great boss fight. And this is where Onimusha Way of the Sword really excels. This is where it is at its best. It is in the boss fights. That's where the combat shines. That's where like the presentation shines, graphical presentation, everything. This is where it really, really excels. Now, you can play the demo for yourself right now if you want to, but to give you like very, very broad strokes breakdown, the game is structured very familiarly. It's nothing like crazy novel. You're exploring environments. You are then pushing through to like complete some quest objective, main story or side objective, and then it's usually capstoned with a boss fight. These boss fights are what make it all worth it in my view, because a lot of the environmental stuff is lacking, or even at times, I'm going to say it can be boring. I'll show you more about that in that like secret demo that we played, which I'll tell you about in just a second. But overall, like the boss fights are what really make it. And this is okay. To be clear, there's plenty of games like this where like the connective tissue is maybe like here in terms of engagement or how thrilling and interesting it is. And then the boss fights are like up here, and it levels out to an experience that's really positive. Even if this is down here and this is amazing, because it's all as one package, it levels out. Like Black Myth Wukong is an example of that, where the boss fights are great. That's what everybody remembers. That's what everybody enjoys. But it's like the connective tissue where there's problems and where it doesn't excel as much. But the overall package is pretty good as a result of everything being taken in together. Having said that, I kind of want to get into the specifics of this secret demo, if you can call it that. It's not really that secret. So I'm going to show you some snippets of this. I can't show you the whole thing unedited. They did ask that it be broken up a bit, so that's what we are going to do to respect their wishes. But basically, long story short, in the gameplay, I believe we were playing on base PS5, and I think you can tell. Unfortunately, the game does seem, when you're playing it live, to have encountered maybe some graphical downgrades from the trailers. Maybe the trailers were just running on PS5 Pro or something, and so they look better. But little bitty things like texture quality were quite poor, lighting variety, like the whole thing is very lit, like very flat. It's something people noticed in the demo as well, and it is true of the behind closed door demo as well. It's not a bad looking game, but it looks like it could run on a PS4. I'll just say that. Like it's not a deal breaker, I don't think. But looking at some of the trailers, you would think that this is going to be like, wow. And some of the boss fights are wow, but it does seem like it's suffered some graphical limitations at the very least. Like a lot of the geometrical detail is where you can see a lot of it. Things that look really, really low poly, even though they probably shouldn't be. Like these little statue heads, which I'll tell you about in a second, these are supposed to be rounded off at the top, like their heads are supposed to be round. But I mean, you could cut your hand on some of these edges with how sharp they are, because you can just tell that they are like scaled in a way where they're just very low poly because they're small objects in the environment. But even though you're in like a cutscene, it's a gameplay cutscene, so it doesn't smooth it out like an actual cutscene where it cranks the model detail up. So there's just a lot of this where you'll see a lot of these jagged edges everywhere. And again, it just takes you back to like the PS4 gen when this was really, really common. It's less a dig on Onimusha and it's more a compliment to everything else we've seen in the industry where the quality is just cranked up and like crazy, where even with like Unreal Engine games with Nanite, you don't have these problems. But with this, you do see that represented a lot. Lots of jagged edges. If you're watching this on your phone, it might not be that obvious, but when you're playing on a TV, like you can tell. This is also like an example of the texture quality where it's just not that great. There's a lot of examples like this in the game, at least the PS5 version that I saw, where it just does not look like a PS5 game, man. Like it just doesn't. And so that was probably the first disappointment for me, is that it felt graphically like a PS4 game, which was just kind of underwhelming. Beyond that, the areas that you start off in are pretty enclosed. They're pretty small. You fight through waves of enemies that are grunt enemies, and it's fairly straightforward. Now, I wanted to show you my own gameplay. They did not allow us to capture it for logistical reasons, it seems. It was more that they just wanted to have one set of B-roll that they sent to everybody, and that's what we are using. I, of course, prefer to have my own gameplay, but it is what it is. As for these grunt enemies, this is where, again, the feedback from the public demo aligns with the feedback from this demo behind closed doors. Enemies are not that aggressive. They just kind of stand around and will take you on one by one. They're very patient and kind of polite. And it really lowers the stakes of combat when there's like 5 enemies that you feel like should be swarming you, and they just kind of stand there, like right here. See what I mean? Like that attack was telegraphed 3 days ago. Like I find it kind of underwhelming. Like, look, he's just standing there. See what I mean? That's telegraphed a week before. You know, I really think that they need to crank up aggression on the enemies, get them moving and acting way, way faster. I think that'll help. I think these cutscenes are also one of the instances. These are also where like it feels like a PS4 game.
You came in the nick of time. I hope this can go some way to repaying you.
You know, like for this type of game that's primarily gameplay focused and combat focused, that type of thing is not that big of a deal. I want to be clear. It's not that big of a deal. But it just does not feel super, you know, premium, or it doesn't match the quality of other areas of the game, which I think is why it's jarring. Because you see really high quality presentation in some of the cutscenes, and then you see stuff like that where the presentation is much, much lower. It's actually, ironically enough, the same problem that like AC Shadows had, where it had these really high quality cutscenes 2% of the time, and then the rest of it was this dynamic stuff where they looked really robotic, flat, and uninterested. And that's unfortunately the case here, where a lot of those secondary cutscenes in gameplay with gameplay models are just really, really behind where the narrative cutscenes are, where they put a lot of effort into it. And you'll see one of those here in just a second, where they actually really show the presentation at its peak. This is one such cutscene where you can see they've swapped out for the cutscene model. The animation quality is way higher. Eyebrows are moving. You know, there's individual detail actually demonstrated on all of it, and it looks way better. And And I think that's why it's just jarring to go back to those like, thank you for your help. Here are some objects to help you in your journey. You know, it's just jarring. Now, as for this boss, it's like, to be specific, this boss was really cool. It's an archetype that's been used in mythology and legend and lore for millennia. Effectively, you know, careful what you wish for. That's the premise of the boss. In this case, Rashogan is his name. And the whole idea is that our hero wants to get rid of the gauntlet, and if he wishes that from this dude, he'll grant the wish, but he's going to take your whole arm as a result. And so, you know, careful what you wish for. But he ended up being a really cool boss, really cool design, and look how much more aggressive. And again, these cutscenes are so much better. It's wild.
To take more than an arm to sort you out. You're not getting shit from me.
I also don't know why they're all British. I'm gonna say that. Like, it's like AC Unity in reverse, where AC Unity was French and everybody was British. Here, everybody is Japanese, but they all have British accents. It's a little weird. I know that that's just something like it's sort of a trope of any sort of story nowadays, is like when it's an accent that the primary audience might not be too familiar with. Like, so you're doing an English dub of a Japanese script, they'll just do British because it sounds fancy. I think that's what it is, but it's just, once you notice it, like how everybody is British, you can't unhear it. Now, as for the boss, in like, to be specific, you can see there's all sorts of new interesting mechanics. There's, of course, the stamina, which is the red bar, health, which is the golden bar. This little orb can pop and break trees, or you can pop it for some explosive damage. But this boss is way, way more aggressive than the grunt enemies, and he hits way harder, has way more health, and it works way, way better. And this is what I mean when I say that, like, the boss fights are up here and then the environmental fights are way lower and just not anywhere near as compelling. It's a compliment to the boss fight quality, certainly, but I think, again, it's the contrast and the overall package where these broader vibes are felt. You know, when you feel like the boss fights are great, but the rest of the gameplay is maybe a little lacking or not that inspired or dynamic. It can make it feel really jarring to switch back and forth between the two. If the boss fights are good enough to keep you engaged and interested and playing, then it's not that big of a deal, obviously, but that is something to just be aware of. Now, I will say with this boss fight as well, this is of course B-roll, so it's not my gameplay. I would like to have shown you mine, but they stressed many times that this game was really, really difficult. They stressed over and over and over again that we needed to be careful in which mode we selected. There was a story mode, and then there was an action mode, they called it, which was like, I understood it to be basically easy and normal. Maybe the hard mode is coming later, or it's like a separate thing. I don't know. But they stressed many times how difficult this boss was. And if we got through it, they'd be so impressed. Bro, like, everybody I know got through it in the first try. Like, and maybe if they didn't, it was like 1 or 2 deaths and then they reloaded and got through it. Or they played through it and beat the boss twice in the same demo time slot that we had. Like, I got through the boss fight and I had 15 minutes in my preview slot left. So they just reloaded and let me do the boss fight a second time because, like, it just wasn't that challenging. And I was playing on action, to be clear. Can you imagine if I was saying this and I was playing on story mode? It's like, it wasn't that hard. I was playing on easy. No, I was playing on action, on the harder difficulty that they had. And it was so easy, they let me go and do it a second time. Like, I don't know why there was this disconnect where they said that it was really challenging and then it just wasn't. But I did not find it particularly challenging. And multiple people that I spoke to and that played this said similar things, that they were surprised at how not hard the boss fight was. So I hope that that's a piece of feedback that they take to heart after, of course, the public facing demo where a lot of people said it was easier than they thought it would be. I hope they listen to that and make adjustments. Here you can actually use your bow and arrow and you can shoot down those like chains. I get it. They're trying to demonstrate what the throw looks like, but it's telegraphed again so aggressively that I think you can block pretty much all of this. Perfect parries are really easy to land as well. Perfect dodges are really easy to land. It's really not that challenging. So I will say I would, I know it sounds like cringy, get good gamer talk, but I would personally really like it if they cranked up aggression on grunt enemies, made them hit harder. I'm not saying give them more health necessarily, because that can certainly create another issue, which is just spongy enemies. But if they went and, for example, like just cranked aggression so they attack way faster, there's not as much standing around, I would be very, very happy with that. I also think that the presentation gap between some of these, like, obviously really cinematic cutscenes like this one, which looks great, and then the other cutscenes narratively that happen at other times, it's just so jarring. I don't know if that's fixable, but again, going from like that cutscene into something like this is just a little rough, because it's so different. It's so different. It's just kind of frustrating. And beyond that, bosses, I think they need to crank the damage that they deal. Maybe keep the health where it is, but like just make them harder. Just crank that dial. The aggression is up certainly, but they don't hit anywhere near as hard as you would think. It's really easy to recover. I think those are my primary points. In addition to like other things like general graphical improvements. If they can get the low poly problem fixed, I think that'll help with a lot of the issues. Lighting, I understand on a base PS5, there's only so much you can do, especially in a game that's like built around ray tracing or an engine that wants to ray trace and it just can't. So I would really like to see those things tackled and improved before launch. And if you guys verbalize similar things in the comment section, I'm sure that they will listen to the feedback and potentially make those improvements as much as they can. Overall, I really like it. Like I said, I think it's one of those games that is sort of a game of extremes. Like there are elements of it which are kind of like C minus D plus. There's moments where I'm like, bro, I'm literally doing a fetch quest. I'm literally hunting down 3 statues, which is what we had to do in this demo. You go find 3 statues, bring them back to the other 5 that are already there, and then you basically get the pass to go fight the boss. That's what you do. And they put an objective marker on the map so you can make a beeline straight to it. You go exactly to where they pinpointed, collect the statue, bring it back, and then you get to go to fight the boss. Like that to me is just like the least possible or least interesting option possible for like a pre-boss fight objective. It's just kind of lame. It's boring. I would say the same thing if it was Ubisoft. I'd say the same thing if it was Bethesda. It's literally a fetch quest. Okay. It's just boring. And so I personally would love it if there was more variety. Maybe there is, that we'll see in the final game. But if the game is what this demo presented it to be, which is that kind of uninteresting side activity, fetch quest stuff, followed by a awesome boss fight, I think it levels out to a pretty good game. You know, probably not a masterpiece, but pretty good. I just hope that the side activities or the activities before the boss fights are even better than this, because then it goes from pretty good to really good or great or amazing even. It's just a matter of like that connective tissue. And it's, again, an issue that comes up time and time again for like decades at this point, where you can have a game with amazing combat, amazing boss fights, but if the connective tissue is lame, it just it never reaches its full potential. It's a problem in all of these games. It's why From Software is so freaking good at like their games, because they figured out the connective tissue. Of course, they're kind of in their own genre, so it's different. Onimusha is not a Souls-like game. I like, not at all. It has a lot more open world elements. It has a lot more kind of broader adventure game elements to it. But I think that's the example I raised, because that connective tissue is often where these games falter. So much focus gets put on the boss fights that connective tissue ends up being just fetch quest filler, and it can be kind of a trudge to get through. But if the boss fights are good enough that it makes that trudge worth it, it balances out to a pretty good game. I'm just hoping they can balance things, crank the aggression, the difficulty a bit, to make that connective tissue stronger so that it's not that trudge and you actually enjoy the journey to the boss instead of just like rolling your eyes, gritting your teeth, getting to the boss where the game actually shines. So those are my thoughts on the Onimusha Behind Closed Doors demo and the publicly available demo. I encourage you to try it for yourself. It is good. I do think this will be a good game, to be clear. But again, they don't know to change these things or fix them unless you verbalize your frustrations and your feedback. And that's what I'm doing here. So put your feedback in the comment section below. Maybe you loved every aspect of it. Maybe you have no problems or notes at all. Put that down below. You never know. Possibly I'm the outlier. I'm not entirely sure. I heard many of the similar pieces of feedback from others, but it could be that maybe we are the outliers and all of you totally disagree. But having said that, Thank you for watching. Thanks for chilling and being here. I love you all desperately. I will be coming at you with a lot more videos, even just today, on other things from Summer Games Fest, like Alien Isolation 2, Blood Message, which we've talked about a lot on the channel, which I actually got to play. And so make sure to subscribe, ring the bell for all of those videos, okay? Much love. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.